Oh, what a lad. Well, this week I've got something a little bit different for you all. He may not be a household name in New Zealand just yet, but he certainly is making a name for himself over in America, where he's a punter for Indiana playing college football. It's not often we see Kiwis chase the American football dream, so there's heaps in this thing that I'm looking forward to talking about. And of course, like all my guests are, he is an absolute lad. He's one of the greats. It is James Evans. Welcome, mate.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Mate, thanks for coming on. It is such a unique and exciting opportunity that you've got in front of you at the moment. So I'm really looking forward to hearing all about it.
That sounds good.
Mate, so you've obviously just finished your first season. How was it over there? What's life like over there in America?
It's pretty hectic. With school and football, it's kind of like two full-time jobs. So I just recently got accepted into the Kelly School of Business, which is like a top 10, I think, business school in America. So I was really stoked with that. So just balancing that and football. And last season was crazy. The team, especially compared to years past, we didn't really do so well. But we played, I believe, like the strength of schedule was the hardest in all of college football, playing in the Big Ten, and then we played non-conference games against Cincinnati and a few other really good schools. So I got some really, really crazy experiences in, and I guess a lot of cool stories and a lot of good memories.
Mate, how good is that? So for those who don't know much about college football, give us a little bit of an insight into what it's like over there. It looks unbelievable. Massive following, massive stadiums. What's it like?
It's absolutely unreal. The fans are crazy. We have a stadium slightly bigger than Eden Park, and it was full, I want to say 4 out of our 6 home games, so that was unreal, like running out. But then also we got to play in some like the coolest stadiums. We played night games at Penn State and Michigan, and they were packed out. So I think it was like 107,000 people in the stands against Penn State, and then 110,000 against Michigan. So, especially when you're running out like the tunnel in those games, you look up and you go, "Whoa,
yeah,
what have I got myself into?" But really, really good memories there. It's just crazy. Like the scale of things is crazy. The fans. I still remember my first game. We played at the University of Iowa. And came in, we went through like private TSA, so like airport security, whatever. Got a police escort to the airport, and then got on like a chartered plane to the middle of nowhere in Iowa, and then stayed in a fancy hotel. Everything was just like unreal, like, and then the next day when we played the game, I remember going to the stadium, and there was just miles or kilometers of people tailgating, like middle-aged men pulling the finger at you on the bus, and all these it was just like the scale of it, the fan support, and all those things are just like off the chains.
Mate, it is next level. Like, how do they get such big support and such a massive following?
Well, I feel like a lot of like the places where historically there's been really good programs, or in some of like the more rural areas, where there's not necessarily like pro sports. And obviously America's such a big place as well. Yeah. So like Bloomington, where I live in Indiana, it's a college town. Like there's only 80,000 people that live here. And then like on summer break, when all the schools go home, there's only like 40,000 people. So I mean, there's not too much to do necessarily. So when there's football and there's basketball and there's some other sports, like people come from around the state and they come and support the team and whatnot.
It is unreal. And how have you found the whole football side of things? Obviously you're a punter. How have you found the punting side of the game?
I mean, it's been good. I started all 12 games last year as a freshman, which was good. That was a goal of mine. Some good games, some bad games, and whatnot, but just trying to get better for the second year, and then I've got 3 more seasons left to play, so it was good to start as a freshman, which is pretty hard to do, and then just hoping to get better and better in my last 3 years.
So there's a 3-year limit that you can be involved in this side.
No, there's a 4-year limit. So
Oh, yeah.
it's weird. There's something called taking a redshirt year. So it's basically a lot of freshmen do it where they don't play their first year, and so they like preserve a year eligibility. And
Right.
I mean, because you're not really expected to play as a freshman, just because like physically and mentally you're not necessarily like ready to play college football. I mean, especially playing against like 23, 24-year-olds. And then also, some of that also threw kind of a banner in the works was the COVID year. So basically, because of COVID, everyone got an extra year. Unfortunately, I did not get that. I started right after the COVID year. But yeah, so there's literally like dudes that had been playing college football. It was their 6th year last year. It's like grown-ass men, like 24-year-olds. So
I suppose you sort of stay out of it all anyway, though, do you? Because you're just kicking the football. The sort of physical side of it doesn't matter too much. It's more the mental side of it, is it? And understanding the game.
yeah, so like at practice, like really, I don't really do anything. It's kind of funny. You watch all these other dudes, like they run around and they're like knackered and whatnot, and I'm out there like I'll kick like probably like 40 to 60 balls, but like during like actual like team period, I only get like 6-7 reps.
Yeah.
So the rest of practice, I'm just chilling, on the sidelines, and dudes sometimes get, I wouldn't say annoyed, but they'll get jealous, when they're sweating, and especially in the summer when it's really, really hot. Physically, like I have to do the same like strength and conditioning as everyone else. So that was one thing. I know you played rugby, professional rugby, so long. Like the preseasons are pretty brutal.
Yeah.
Before I came here, I was like, well, at least I won't have to run like, conditioning like Broncos, all those things, And I get here and they have me running with the linebackers and the tight ends and the quarterbacks, so it's like, it's even worse almost than all the rugby conditioning. So that's not fun, but aside from that, it's all practice is good.
True. I did wonder whether you would have to do all that sort of conditioning side of the game as well, because obviously being a high condition athlete's probably not that important for you. You probably how many kicks would you average in a game? Maybe like 6 or 8 or something, would you?
Yeah, 5 or 6. Yeah, 5 or 6. So, I mean, I don't really have to be fit to run on the field like 25 yards and then run off 25 yards after I kick it. So, yeah, don't give me like, I don't know. It gets me frustrated at times because I'm thinking like, what's this going to do me? But, I guess it's part of being in a team.
So do they have sort of requirements for you to hit physically, or is that just mainly just to push you mentally?
Not really. I mean, I'll sit down like with the strength coach, the head strength coach, and kind of map out, like progression. I'll have like a weight goal, like a muscle mass goal. Like we have it's like body fat analysis, muscle mass analysis, all those things. We get those done every few months, whatnot. So just I think his big philosophy is just like maintaining as much like lean muscle mass as you can. So just trying to do that, and yeah, I guess for me, like really, aside from my lower body and my core, there's not too much I really need to do. That's, I guess, necessary for me. But they still make me bench press and all those things. So yeah.
Mate, it sounds like a pretty sweet gig, to be fair. But how did you get into it all anyway? Because obviously you're from New Zealand. You grew up in New Zealand. You're playing rugby, as I understand, and then you make the switch to American football. So give us a little bit of a rundown of your upbringing.
Well, I grew up in Auckland. Grew up playing a lot of sports, like predominantly rugby, bit of cricket in the summer, although kind of got boring, as the game drags out. And I was pretty much, I played, a lot of sports and whatnot. I think I was like 13 or 14, and like kicking was probably like my strongest point in rugby, and one of my coaches was like, why don't you just go play like American football? And I was like, like you said, like all you have to do is kick a ball. You just sit on the sideline all day, and I'm out here thinking like that's a pretty sweet gig. And then as I kind of got older, and I guess I started like getting some injuries and went on rugby and started like losing my passion a bit, I kind of thought back to that idea, and then I was kind of watching like a bit of college football, a bit of NFL football, just because college football's on Sundays. Like, what are you gonna do like on a Sunday afternoon? And then watching the NFL on like Monday morning is a good use of school, And I saw these Australian guys playing college football, and I was like, what are they, like how is this possible? And then I like did some research, and I found there was like a kicking academy that like trained kids and then sent them like on college scholarships to the US. So I got in touch with them my last year of high school, went over to Melbourne, Australia for a tryout, and then so I finished high school in December 2019, and in January I moved to Melbourne of 2020, and then joined Pro Kick Australia, which is the academy. And so I was only actually there for like, I want to say like 3 months because of COVID. Things kind of, got locked down, and I figured it's probably not good to be 18 and alone in a foreign country. So my parents going to move back to New Zealand. But I think it was like literally like 6 or 7 weeks into being in Australia, they were like, we might have a place for you. And then everything kind of just aligned, and then about a month and a half later, I was committed here. And then in January of 2021, I moved out to Bloomington, Indiana. And here we are today, I guess a year and a half later. So that's a interesting story, I know. I know a lot of people, like here, I get that question all the time. People are so confused. Like I'll say I play football and they'll think I play soccer. And I'll have to tell them like, no, like American football, so yeah.
So how good of a kicker were you as a rugby player? Did you know you were like a really good kicker?
I like to think that was definitely my strong point. I guess goal kicking was kind of my thing. I was able to hit like pretty long ball. I didn't actually really work on like actually like punting ball out of hand too much. But I'd like to think I was pretty good. Before I came, when I was training back home in 2020, actually Marty Banks.
Oh yeah.
Do you know?
Oh, do I what?
Yeah, nice. Top quality bloke. I ran into a park and we were kicking some balls, and I guess that was kind of when I could compare myself to a elite kicker, and we were pretty similar, I guess.
Surely you had Marty Banks.
Maybe kicking a football. I don't know. He's a really talented guy though. Like top quality dude. Really liked him. Yeah, just a really nice guy.
How do you think someone like him would go if he tried kicking over there?
I mean, I feel like he'd go pretty good. He might be slightly too old. Now, once he just slightly over 30, but no, I feel like he'd fit in pretty well. People would like him.
Sure. Were you just down at the park kicking your American footballs, and he was just down there kicking rugby balls?
Yeah, I was, and I was like, I recognized him, and he actually came up to me. I didn't want to be, the guy that interrupted the session. He came up to me, and he was kind of, I guess, slightly confused, slightly interested, and then we ended up just kicking balls together for a bit and talking, and I spoke to him for a good period, like a couple hours, and he was a really, really good dude. So, yeah.
Mate, he's a lad. So when you went over to the Pro Kick Academy, did you realise pretty quickly you were pretty gifted in this area? Because like you said, you weren't there for very long, and you picked up your gig pretty quickly.
Yeah, no, there was a lot of really talented dudes. So a lot of mates of mine playing college football now. but I thought, especially in terms of like leg strength, I could compete
Mm.
with a lot of the guys there. But their big philosophy in Australia was finding like a good fit. Um, so the good thing about where I am now is like obviously I wanted to go to business school, and we got a really good business school. Um, we got a really good social life here, and then also a really good standard of football in the Big Ten. So everything was just like it was a good place for. Well, at least they thought it was a good place for me. So everything kind of just like aligned. Um, you know.
Yeah. Had you played any games before you got over there, or was it just purely on your punting stats and what you could do with the foot?
Yeah, so it was really just sending videos of me punting, and then they had like a pre-existing relationship with our head coach here and the special teams coordinator, and then obviously like I'd kicked thousands and thousands of balls when I got here. Like we had football practice, and so I had to win like the starting job against three other older guys on the team. But my first actual like I'd never been to a football game uh, until we played at Iowa, and I was playing in it, and it was
Sure.
yeah, there was 70,000 people there, and it was pretty loud. So that was funny. I didn't actually. It's a funny thing. I didn't like. I'd never been to a football game aside from playing in them until. So we live about 45 minutes from Indianapolis. So there's the Indianapolis Colts there. So they were playing on Thursday night. So went up to a game. They were playing the Jets, and the next day we were leaving to play against Michigan. And I was just sitting there thinking like, holy, like this is unreal. And then come 2 days later, we're in the Big House, which I think is the second biggest stadium in the world, where like Tom Brady went to school. A lot of like really big football guys. And there was 110,000 people at the game, and it was like, whoa, yeah, it was pretty unreal.
Mate, what are your nerves like before these games? So many people, especially your first one when you hadn't even seen a game, you had never played a game. What are your nerves like?
It was an interesting few days leading up to it. I was coming off of really like a good few practice weeks going into it. So mentally, I don't think I was necessarily too nervous. Physically, the amount of like adrenaline I had was just like off the chain. So it took me the first three punts probably definitely weren't my best. But as I guess the game became all settled in, whatnot, I started to get more confident, and I had a pretty good second half in our first game. Definitely not the greatest first half, but I guess we made up for it slightly. So, yeah.
I guess that's a hard thing about being a kicker, I guess, especially with the massive crowd, the energy you get from these crowds, 110,000. I can only imagine. I felt like 35,000 was giving me enough energy some games. So, but you've got to really control your uh, energy that you're receiving from them, don't you? Like these guys who are in all the crash bash stuff get to sort of unleash all this energy they're picking up, but you've got to control it just to place your ball where you want it, eh?
Yeah, so, I mean, I guess I kind of started to approach the game less like a football player and more like kind of like just like a golfer. Like I just have to do my own thing. And I'm almost just like, I'm on the team, but I'm not really on the team. I'm just like that guy who does a specialty thing. And so obviously, like, if I was that guy, like, bashing heads and hitting dudes, like, I'd love for the crowd to be,
Yeah.
But for me, I just have to sit on the sidelines and stay calm and focus on what I have to do. And then when I get the opportunity, just do my best to be as calm as possible and just focus on my technique and all those good things.
And what was it like adjusting to kicking with all the gear on? Because obviously in rugby union, there's no gear. You never played a game. You're playing with now all this gear on.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, I absolutely hated it as first. I remember, like, so at one of our practices, I like took my helmet off before I came off the field. Like I had a rep during team period, um, and the head coach got asked about me in like a press conference, and he mentioned it, and so I was getting a bit clowned like on Twitter and whatnot for that. It was kind of funny, and then it happened again, and they made me run a stadium, so like run from the bottom of the stand to the top of the stand. We have a pretty big stadium, so that kind of sucked. But I don't know. Sometimes it feels like you're skateboarding. Like they make me wear knee pads, thigh pads, hip pads, shoulder pads, and a helmet. I cut my knee pads so they're just like that big instead of being like whatever. I cut my thigh pads so it's just a tiny piece of foam kind of. Cut my hip pads so like they're pretty much non-existent. But I guess there was definitely a while where it took me time to adjust. Like my helmet's, luckily it's like lasered to my head, so it's really like form fitting, and it's like it's so tight, and sometimes it like just doesn't even feel like you got something on. But definitely those first few practices, I was like, oh my, yeah.
So is it compulsory to wear every single piece of gear? That's why you've just made it as small as possible.
Yeah, so all those things, thigh pads, hip pads, knee pads, like you have to wear them and the refs enforce them. There's like, for some reason, there's so many like equipment rules. So like, I mean, I guess knee pads are supposed to go over the knees, it's kind of implied by the name. But I tried pulling my shorts up as high as I could. I remember I was on the field at Michigan, and I thought the ref said pull your shorts up, so I pulled my shorts up. It turns out he was saying pull your shorts down, so I think we might have like nearly drawn a penalty. So that was kind of funny. But for some reason, I don't know, there's so many equipment rules, which I mean I guess are pretty unnecessary. I always tell people, like I'll joke, they'll be like, oh, you need shoulder pads and you need thigh pads and you're going to be glad you're wearing shoulder pads if you ever have to hit someone. I was like, well, like, I mean, I grew up playing rugby. Like, if I have to make a tackle, I have to make a tackle. Like, what's a helmet going to do? Like, I'm not going to tackle with my head, Ideally my head's going to be on the side, so I'm not getting like a concussion or anything, but I don't know.
Have you ever had to take a contact yet or make a tackle? Have you been hit?
No. I mean, aside from one time that, like, as a joke, the special teams coordinator said go do tackling drill, but it was just tackling someone on a mat. I did think there was one time we played at Penn State, and the ball was on the 2-yard line, so my heels were at like the back of the end zone. So it was really constricted. So basically it was just like catch it, take a step, kick it. Like it was really like quick. And their return man was Jahan Dotson, who he might get drafted tonight. Actually, the draft's on like now. He might get picked in the first round. Like he's shifty dude, like insane athlete. And he was back there, and he made 3 or 4 dudes miss. And so I started jogging, and I was like as I started jogging further, I was like, oh no, like I'm probably about to get like sidestepped on a ESPN, But luckily, one of my teammates, like literally like 3 meters in front of me, made the tackle. Otherwise, probably wouldn't have been pretty. Yeah.
So you talk about that draft. You're not eligible to be picked up in that draft yet. Do you have to finish your whole college football career? How does that work?
I think you have to spend 3 years in college. So some of my teammates, I think we have 2 or 3 guys projected to be drafted. Not, I think, middle to late rounds. But there is definitely guys like around the country who leave after 3 years. But those guys are the guys that are going to be picked, really high.
So what happens to the guys who have finished up their time and they don't get picked up in the NFL? Where do they go, or what do they do? Are they just into working life, is it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the good thing, graduating with a degree, like debt free, um, and then also having the connections from playing college football. I mean, like, yeah, obviously, if you don't get the opportunity to play professionally, like, it kind of sucks and whatnot, and a lot of guys, are devastated. But um, I feel as though like playing college football opens so many doors, like networking. Like I've had the opportunity to meet so many cool people. Like literally one day we were at football, and the dude who starred in Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift, I forgot his name, but he just like walked out in the facility, and he was just like talking to us at the team meeting, and I was like what, you know? So it's, I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, and your passion is in business, is it? You're studying business.
Yeah, so I'm lucky I got into the Cali school, but that's one of the main reasons I wanted to come to the U.S., but then specifically Indiana, because I think the average starting salary of just like an undergrad student's like 70,000 US from the business school. Like it's seen as pretty like prestigious in that. So I hope to graduate here. I'm trying to graduate in 3 years or 3.5 years, so earlier than 4 years, and then get like my MBA paid for. And then obviously if football doesn't work out, uh, hopefully I'll land a pretty good job either here or back home.
So what's your week look like at the moment? Obviously, it sounds like you're pretty much a full time professional American football player, but you've also got to manage your study in between that. What's your study to training ratio sort of look like? What's a week look like?
Well, right now we're not in season, so it's pretty relaxed. So right now it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday lift, Tuesday, Thursday, like team runs, and then I'm expected to go kick balls on my own like 2 or 3 times. And then I'm in a lot of credit hours right now, so I've taken 7 classes a semester. So um, usually Monday through Thursday I'd have 3 classes, and then Friday I'd have 1 class in the morning off the lift. Um, but in this season, it's a lot more hectic. There was a lot of days where I'd be waking up at 6 to come to football. Football would be finished at like 11:30, 12, and then I'd go to class from 1 till 6:30, and then I'd have tutoring or homework. And a lot of times I wouldn't get home till 9 or 10 p.m. So yeah, it was kind of a lot. And then on the weekend we'd be expected to go play. Um, so it can be stressful at times, but it's all
Yeah.
worth it.
Mate, that is crazy. And what's like the whole college environment like? Is you obviously see a lot in the movies over here. That's pretty much as far as we go here in New Zealand with what it's like. Is it like the movies? Are you guys sort of the big dogs of the campus as a American football player?
I mean, there's definitely like some. I don't know if people know you play football, they might treat you slightly differently. But I don't know. We have a good time on the side, outside of football and school. Um, it's been like pretty crazy with some of the things, like bars, frats, and all those kind of things. It's actually funny though, because back home I was legal to drink, and then I came here and I was 19, and it was my first day. I was at LAX. I was really tired, and I was like, "Well, I'll go buy a beer." Like I've got to wait like 6 hours at the airport, and so I went out to the kiosk and I was like, "Could I get like a Bud Light or something?" Or, like, "Can I see some ID?" And I showed my New Zealand driver's license, and well, I'm 19, so yeah. So that was the first time where I was. Yeah, I learned the hard way, but yeah. Luckily, I'm turning 21 next month, so
You'll be into it.
yeah.
In terms of like the college thing, do you have like initiations and things like the rugby? Is the squad really close? Do you guys all get out on the piss together much, or not really? Such a big group, eh?
Yeah, there's a lot of dudes. There's not really an initiation thing at all. Um, I guess a lot of my friends are in like the class, kind of like so. People are like recruited in the football team um, every year, so everyone kind of comes in at the same time. So like I'm friends with a lot of those guys, and so those are a lot of the guys that I did things like socially together. Um,
Yeah.
Outside of that, though, like all the guys are really, really, really cool dudes. There's a lot of, I guess, like diverse backgrounds. It's kind of weird. Obviously, I'm like a foreigner, but we actually have another dude on the team that CO. He was born in Auckland, actually.
Right.
Lived there till he was 8. Then moved to Australia, and then he moved to American Samoa, then Australia, then the US. But he's a defensive tackle, so he actually does athletic things. So yeah.
So after a game, do you guys all just head back to the changing rooms? Do you head off to your classic American house party? What's the usual ritual after a game?
Uh, it depends. If it's an away game, shower, get dressed, call my parents, get on the bus, get to a plane, fly home. Everything's really streamlined. If it's a home game, uh, I guess just find out what we're doing afterwards and go enjoy the boys' company. There was one time though, actually we played Michigan State. It was a noon game, really big game, sold out game. And what happened was after the game, like this, you know what tailgating is?
Yeah.
Yeah, so one of teammates' families had a tailgate, gave me like a couple beers, and I was like, oh no, like I had an exam to take that 8 p.m. that night, so it was rough. So we played in the game in front of 53,000 and probably a couple million on TV, and then I was in a like computer and business, so like pretty rough exam at 8 p.m. that night. So I don't know. It varies a lot, but
Yeah.
we definitely like enjoy ourselves.
You have to, don't you? So then, like post game, do you guys how much analysis do you do as a kicker in terms of who you're playing? How does your review sort of preview work look?
So Saturday we play. Sunday we come in. We have a lift treatment, and we review our film from the day before, and then we have a walkthrough, which is like just walking through things to improve, and then also walking through the opposition for the next week. And then we've got Monday off from football, and then Tuesday we have a big meeting and we'll review everything. Like for me, last season, all I had to know was what kind of looks they'll give me, like their punt return unit. So if they'll overload one side, and I'll know I have to get the ball off slightly quicker, or if it's a hold-up look. So for me, and everything's kind of just like our special teams coordinator will do all that, and they'll put in a report, and they'll kind of go through it. And then occasionally I'd watch film if I was unsure, but a lot of the time it's pretty self-explanatory. Like for me, if I see like a significant overload on what like the kick side, it'll probably mean they bring pressure, and then certain teams bring certain looks. So
How hard was that for you to learn all that side of things, especially since you hadn't watched much, you hadn't followed much football through your life, I guess, growing up? How hard was it to pick up all these cues and understand the game, where to put the ball?
not really too difficult. Just because a lot of it was set out by our coordinator, and he took me through it a lot. And then obviously we have play calls for where we're kicking, what type of kick, all those things. So really, especially because it was my first year, I didn't have a whole lot of responsibility in terms of like decision making and that. It was really just he told me what to do, and if I saw something like pre-snap, I might, instead of taking like a full like 3 steps, just like 1 step and get it off, which did happen a couple of times. Especially some teams like when they know there's like a freshman back there, they'll try to come after you a bit. But yeah, it wasn't like nothing terribly difficult,
Yeah.
especially when the offensive and the defensive playbooks are like brutal. Like they're always in meetings, and a lot of the time, like we have to be at football, but we're not in O&D meetings, so we're just in the players' lounge, like playing ping pong or whatever. So yeah.
Yeah, so all your team stuff's done separately. All the D's done by themselves, all the attacks done by themselves, and you guys do your own stuff as well. So it's all pretty split, is it?
Yeah. So I mean, the kickers, punters, and snappers are kind of like the three positions where like we're kind of almost separate. And then special teams, so we have punt return, kickoff and kickoff return, and then field goal block. So those are the 6 units we have. And so basically the offensive and defensive players, depending on what unit it is, will play in the special team. They'll just be either like blocking or trying to make a tackle or trying to block a kick. So they'll still have to come to the same meetings as us. It's just they'll also have to learn like an entire offense or entire defense, and then we'll just be chilling in the players' lounge, waiting for them to be done so we can go home.
So how much of your job relies on your teammates, your other guys?
For me, quite a lot. So basically, I mean, if they don't do their job in protection, then I'm probably going to get smacked, which is not ideal. And then in terms of coverage, getting off blocks, getting down, either like forcing like a fair catch, like the returner can signal to basically say we're not going to return the ball, I'm just going to catch it so it doesn't roll. And then the offense is going to start from where he fair caught it. So either doing that, like getting downfield quickly and forcing a fair catch, or making tackles in open field if they get a return. So they do a lot. They don't really get much credit, which is unfortunate. But yeah, really playing special teams, there's not a whole lot of glory. And it's kind of just one of those things where you're just getting smacked for little return, so
Yeah.
the battlers on special teams, you got to appreciate them and you got to thank them. So
And you mentioned before about like you got told what sort of kick to put in before you run out there. So what sort of kicks is that like? What do they usually want from you? Is it hang time? Is it length? Is it a combination of all sorts of things?
So distance, hang time, direction, and get off are probably like the 4 main things. But then obviously we have different types of kicks. So there's like calls depending on our like protection schemes. So we'll never kick down the middle of the field unless I miss-hit a ball. So there's left directional kicks, right directional kicks. If we're close to like the goal line, so I have to kick with precision, we'll have like end over end kicks. We didn't use it as much last year, but basically like rolling rugby style like end over end kicks.
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty popular in college football. A lot of Australian guys, they do that a lot. I find that's like really easy to do like in or wind.
Yeah.
So those are really the main calls, and then obviously based off of what the other team's doing. There was times last year where I had to just catch it and just one step it. So basically, just take one step and kick it.
And you don't do any kicking for goal, do you?
No. So that's actually my roommate Charles.
Yeah.
He's our starting field goal kicker. I've started getting reps holding for field goals this year. So maybe in the season I'll be the starting holder.
So is that the catcher and then put it down?
Yeah, put it down. So that's I don't know. It's not too difficult. It's nice to get a bit more responsibility and something else to do at practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you like to get into the goal kicking?
No, I just don't think
Yeah.
I could do it, and really there's not too much point.
So no one would do both in the NFL. You just choose your lane.
No, there's a few dudes that do it like at the college level, like the Penn State guy. Jordan Stout was phenomenal at both, but in the NFL they have a separate guy for both. So
It's so specialised, eh? Such a specialised game. Just come on for you.
yeah,
Head on off. So good.
I know.
But we've spoken a little bit about the facilities, and from what I've seen in the photos, it just looks next level. Like your gym and that whole side of things. It's so professional. You don't get paid. I know everything gets paid for, but what's the facilities like? What's it like training there?
Obviously they're really really nice. I'm in the stadium right now in the academic center, and it's really nice here because everything's in the stadium or attached to the stadium. So we have an athlete academic center, an athlete dining hall, a general athlete like physical therapy room, our football locker room, which is really really nice. I like football players lounge, which just has a bunch of like free food, and then a bunch of unnecessary things like ping pong and pool. We got hot tubs, cold tubs, a bunch of other recovery stuff, like a football-only physical therapy room, position meeting rooms, a weight room, and then obviously we got the main game field, 2 practice fields, and an indoor practice facility. So there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of things. So I end up spending a lot of time at the stadium, and it's kind of nice that everything's kind of in one place.
Fair enough. And none of the players get paid, do they? Or is there some sort of like endorsements and things that they can get now, or is it just?
Yeah, so basically, I think it was July of last year, they opened it up, something called NIL, so name, image, and likeness, so players can start getting paid from endorsements and all that kind of stuff. So I actually can't get paid, though, because I'm on a student visa, so I'm not able to accept any of that. But there's definitely a lot of money in college football. So there's a lot of dudes making around like America. Some dudes making like in the millions just from endorsements.
True.
Yeah, I don't know. Our basketball team, there's definitely a couple of dudes making like a few $100,000. I don't know exactly how much some of my teammates are making, but I know like some of them making in the tens of thousands. So it's good side gig, and I guess it kind of, even though it like the wording of it's like you can't incentivize like how you play, but it kind of is, so the better you play, like the bigger your brand's going to be, and then the more opportunities you're going to get.
Yeah, and it sounds like an awesome place to be a coach as well. He's on a fair wicket.
Oh yeah, no, our head coach makes a lot. He's got a really nice house. We've been to his house. Yeah, it would be nice. All that stuff's public though,
Yeah.
so I guess people can look it up if they're curious. But it's in the millions.
Yeah, it's crazy, eh? Like, and how many coaches have you got? Like, are they all on millions, or is it just the head guy who has to front everything? His head's on the line, I guess.
Yeah, it's the head guy. I guess we have a head coach, offensive, defensive, special teams coordinator, and then we have position coaches, so quarterbacks coach, wide receivers coach, all the different positions. There's a coach for them, and then underneath that, there's I think called like quality control. So just below position coaches, and I think it's like five of those, and then we have graduate assistants. So basically, guys that are in grad school. Well, they're paid to be football coaches, but also they're in grad school, and so like they're getting their graduate education. And then we have student assistants as well.
Fairly big team.
Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, no, definitely.
Oh, well, there's so much money. Yeah, I think I read somewhere that it was you guys made 30 million, or was it more than that?
Uh, yeah, I think so. I think it's 2019, roughly 30 million in profit, just the football department. I'd like to think that would have gone up last year just with attendance. Um, but yeah, no, it's pretty crazy when you think about it.
Yeah. And how did your team do last year?
Oh, we did not. We didn't have a great season.
Yeah.
We actually won 2 games and had 10 losses. Yeah, unfortunately, we had a lot of momentum going into the season. I think we were the ranked number 17 in the country going into the season. But we lost first game at Iowa. Week 3, we lost to Cincinnati. We were in the college football playoff. Week 5, we lost at Penn State. And just early season, bad momentum combined with a lot of injuries to key guys kind of just, yeah.
So that obviously doesn't affect attendance, though. It's not like New Zealand, like when your team starts losing, the crowd stop coming. You guys were losing, what, you're 2 from 10 and you're still getting 110,000 to the stadium.
Oh, yeah, no, well, I mean, definitely the last couple of home games weren't as packed, but
Yeah.
also it gets really cold here. I think it was 25 degrees Fahrenheit for both the last 2 home games, so I want to say it's like -3, -4 degrees Celsius, so
Wow. Fair enough, no one's turning up.
yeah, so I mean, yeah, I probably wouldn't go if I was a fan. Yeah, that's probably one of the worst things about living in Indiana. The coldest it's got since I've been here is like -20 degrees Celsius. And then it's gone into the 40s in the summer, so like there's just no happy like median like it is kind of back home.
So how do you keep warm? Like, that's a interesting point around, like, when it's that cold and you're only kicking 6 times and you're doing a lot of standing around on that sideline, aren't you? So how are you keeping your leg warm and ready to kick?
Well, luckily we've heated benches when it's cold, so I just sit on the heated bench, which is nice. And then like towards the end of the season, as it got colder, I'd hop on the bike and kick balls. We have a kicking net, so I'd kick into the net. But you know, it got to the point last season where I guess it's kind of like deep heat, pain zone. It was titled, where like our athletic trainers, I'd be like, I need some pain zone. I'd just chuck it on like my hamstrings, so I'd be feeling warm and loose, you know.
Oh, geez, it's good stuff. So interesting. And you spoke about your side not having a great year last year, but what's the future look like for them?
I'd like to think definitely gonna have a better year this year. I feel like last year the early season losses combined with injuries to key guys kind of just, you know, when you're on a team and you lose the momentum that you had going into the season and the people's confidence gets affected and everything just, you know, is on a steady decline. But through like our spring football program and our winter conditioning program, things have been looking good. I guess we got some new like transfers in, so a lot of those guys are looking good, and I definitely feel like this year the team is more together off the field, and hopefully that'll kind of translate to on-field performance.
Yeah. And how much does the team rely on your quarterback? Like, seems like a lot when you're watching with an eye which isn't tuned into American football, but how much do you guys rely on your quarterback?
Well, I guess like the whole like offense goes through the quarterback, so quite a lot.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things last year that kind of affected us. Just we had a lot of injuries to our quarterbacks, and got to the point at the end of the season where we were down an 18-year-old freshman who had only actually been, you know, with the team for like a few months. So, you know, he's a really, really talented player, but like it's kind of throwing a kid into the fire early, I think. So yeah, I mean the games that we won, the quarterback play was really good. I think Mike, when we played against Western Kentucky and we beat them in their home, he threw for like nearly like 400 yards, which is a lot. So I didn't punt much that game, which was nice. But yeah, no, it's a lot. They have a lot of responsibility. Like I don't really envy being them, you know. Especially when it comes to how much like film they got to watch and how much like of the playbook they have to study and all those things.
Yeah. So do they come up with them with a lot of their attack strategy, or is that still the head coach who gives it to them, but they just need to keep an eye on things?
So I think it's just all through the offensive coordinator. I'm still like kind of not so privy to all those things and not so informed, but the offensive coordinator, it's his job to like call plays and all those things. So he does all that, and he calls the plays, and so then I think it's like signals that go to the quarterback, and then the quarterback tells the rest of the guys and all those. To be honest with you, I'm not 100% informed on how all this works. Yeah, I just go kick the ball. Yeah.
Oh, mate, you're lovely. So what's the plan for you? You've got your 3 years over there to get through. What's the dream? To get drafted? How do you go about the process to get drafted? What's the plans?
Yeah, so I still have 3 more years to play. I guess, the dream would be to play in the NFL. And to get there, it's probably just being more consistent on the field and continuing to develop and get better on all those things. Like, I'm still really young. I'm only 20. And I've only been kicking footballs just over, 2.5 years now. So, I'm still very early on in my development. So just keeping on developing as a punter. And then as I get older, just continue to play better. But it's definitely hard to get into the NFL as a punter because there's only 32 spots. So, there's only really 3 to 5 spots that kind of come free each year. So you have to be really up there in college football and really performing. Obviously, I want to graduate, hopefully get my MBA, and if football doesn't work out, honestly, I don't know if I'll stay in the U.S. post-graduation. I get asked that all the time, but I guess there's a few factors. Maybe get a job in finance and move to Chicago or something, but that's all very in the future, so.
Yeah, so much to happen between now and then, eh? It's interesting that, so if you miss out on the draft initially, could you get picked up later on even though you're not playing college football, or is once you miss that transition, are you pretty much done?
No, you can, if you don't get drafted, you can sign as an undrafted free agent, and then there's opportunities to try out for teams. There's also other opportunities, there's the Canadian Football League, so it's a professional league, so there's a lot of, they have an international draft, I think, so there's opportunities for guys overseas to go play in that. So that could be an option if things go well. There's other leagues, like spring football leagues where guys go play and then hope they play well, get good game film, and then get signed by an NFL team. But there's definitely opportunities, and there's stories of guys that didn't make it initially and then just stuck with it, and then a few years of development on their own and training got to that point.
Is that something you'd look to do, or do you think you'd chase the go down the business side?
I really don't know, to be honest with you. I think I'd try to be as realistic as possible, but if it was feasible, I'd like to give it, a run. I feel like, especially if it was there was a good possibility that it could happen, I feel like I'd regret it if I didn't, but yeah, that's a question for 3 or 4 years from now.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
Yeah. Mate, it's so fascinating. Such an interesting story. It's so cool to hear. But as always, we have gone to our Instagram for some questions, and it looks like a couple of your mates might be following the Waterlad page, which is Good stuff. So we've had a few good questions come in. But the first question is from another lad. What's the difference between punting in American football and a rugby ball? This one came from Simon Hickey, so another noted rugby ball punter.
Well, college football is slightly smaller than the NFL ball is slightly bigger. So the sweet spot's smaller. Kicking it like end over end is like a rugby will go further. But they spiral pretty well. So if you get the technique down and you hit the sweet spot, they'll fly. Definitely, especially compared to rugby balls, like spiraling a rugby ball is pretty hard. I feel like they don't actually, spiral too well. But yeah, end over end punting's a lot easier with a rugby ball, and it's probably easier to control as well. Like a lot of our game balls are really pointy at the ends because they're pretty new, so they can be pretty brutal to end over end kick.
Interesting. So how far could you punt a NFL ball?
Like no wind are we talking, or?
Yeah, no wind. Or you can put a gale behind you if you want. Give us a good stat.
I don't know. I probably got videos of me hitting it like 70, 75 meters on the full.
Oh, wow. Jeez.
But with some wind, I don't know, add whatever, depending on the wind.
Yeah. 100 meters?
No, I don't know about that. When you really get behind the ball and it spirals and you hit it with like a low trajectory, like it can fly. So, yeah.
What about a rugby ball? How far could you punt a rugby ball?
Ooh, I don't know. I haven't kicked a rugby ball in probably a good 3-4 years now. I don't know. What's kind of the standard, like 50, 55, 60? I don't know. Probably not as far as you could. Your heyday.
No, you'd have me easy, mate.
I don't know about that.
I had the little wedge out. Oh, good stuff. Okay, next one. How far could you place kick a rugby ball?
One time when I was 15, I hit one 60 meters.
Wow.
I think 17, I hit probably 64, but that was kind of the most. That was probably with a good bit of. That was with a good bit of wind though, so I don't know.
True, but you obviously haven't done it for a while.
No, I feel like it'd be terrible if I tried giving it a crack. Yeah, one of our coaches is a big rugby fan, and we actually had like a rugby ball like randomly turn up in our indoor, and he was trying to get me to give it a go recently. But yeah.
Oh, I love it. Okay, next one. Sort of spoke about this when we were talking about Marty Banks, but which rugby player do you think would have the best chance of making it in the NFL as a kicker?
I feel like Dan Carter back in his heyday would be pretty good as a field goal kicker, because he used a very low tee, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to kick. It's weird because you kick off the ground. It's kind of difficult. That's why I kind of suck at kicking field goals. But
you used to have it up on the big high tee.
I don't know about that, but I definitely wasn't as ambitious as he was with the low tee. But I don't know, there's a good few people, and I'm trying to think. I don't actually get to catch too much rugby in the present day just because of the time differences. Yeah. I'm hoping a couple weeks when I go home I'll be able to catch some games. Maybe I'll just give a shout out to Marty Banks. He showed some good potential. That one time I was kicking balls with them.
I reckon he's gonna fly over soon and give it a crack. He'd love it, mate. His rugby career's coming to an end. Come try and be an NFL player. Oh, how good! What about as a as a player? Like any rugby players who you think would go good as a running back or any other position? I guess running back's the main one that people, or kick return, is the main ones that they try.
Probably someone in the midfield or a fullback. Maybe Manono in his prime, put him at running back and get him to smoke some dudes up front. But yeah, I don't know. Being a running back is brutal. Like seeing the dude who started last year, Stephen Carr, after games, like couldn't be me.
Smashed.
Yeah.
Yeah, a few guys have tried. Did you follow much of like Jared Hayne and Christian Wade and their attempts to crack it?
Oh, like a tiny bit. It's hard though, like especially as a position player. Like obviously in rugby, you're conditioned to like play 80 minutes and like aerobically and whatnot.
Yeah.
And to go from that to the stop start and having to know like 200 different plays, sometimes even more than that. I really don't know. It's kind of difficult and learning. Like I feel like if a lot of those guys, and a lot of guys playing professional rugby like right now, grew up in America and had the opportunities, at a younger age, they'd be killing it right now. But it's just it's a tough gig to pick up. I feel like so late.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, next one. This one's from our sponsor, Swish. If you could get a video message from any celebrity in the world, who would it be and why?
Jeez. I feel like Cristiano Ronaldo, just top.
Okay.
Yeah, just
Nice.
absolute stud. Probably the best. I'll say it, the best soccer player of all time.
Do you follow much soccer?
Like a tiny bit. To be honest with you, like I don't really follow much sport in general, just because of like how hectic things are, and then just sometimes it feels. I don't know if you were the same. Sometimes it feels weird when you're like around sports so much to follow it, but like a tiny bit when I can.
Fair enough. Cristiano Ronaldo, absolutely. He'd go on the podcast too, actually. Okay, next one. What made you pick the number 69? Are you actually number 69?
No. I'm number 94, and basically because I play a pretty irrelevant position. Actually, I was going to be number 99 because the special teams coordinator was like, you can pick a number in the 90s, and that's going to be your number. So I was like, sweet as, let's pick 99. And then he forgot to tell the equipment guys, and I went on Twitter one day, and it was like new players' numbers, and it was 94. And I was like, well, I guess I'm 94 now. So
you get no say in that, obviously.
I mean, not really. I mean, if I was like the star quarterback, yeah, like I could probably go demand to be a sexy number, but no.
Oh, that's good stuff. Okay, next one. If you could play with any current player, who would it be?
Ooh. Maybe Tom Brady.
Oh, I
Just
thought it would be. Has to be, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, you and Tom Brady would.
Yeah, I mean, also I wouldn't be punting a whole lot as well with Tom Brady, so it'd be a nice little gig, just chill on the sideline tickets, and then get on the field a couple times.
So the better your team is, the less you punt.
Essentially, yeah. So we punted a lot last season.
Big year for the freshmen, just punting all the time.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Fair enough. Okay, 2 more questions. Who's your dream NFL draft team? Who would you love to be drafted by?
Ooh, I don't know. I just went to like Miami, Fort Lauderdale for spring break, and that was a really, really good time. So maybe the Dolphins. No state income tax there as well.
Oh, really?
State income tax. Yeah, it was really warm there, really good time. My favorite team's the Tennessee Titans in Nashville. So I've been there a couple times. That was another good time. We actually worked out with a couple dudes on the Titans. That was cool. They're really nice dudes. But I don't know. I'd go wherever they were paying me.
You spoke about spring break there. What was that like?
Oh, that was probably the longest week of my life, but it was a good time. Yeah.
How big is it? Like, how many people are at spring break? Is it?
Oh, it was unreal. It was everywhere was packed, like beaches, bars, the whole, like you knew as well. you knew like what schools were on spring break. Like you'd just go talk to people, and they'd all be from the same like 6 to 8 schools. So, but it was hectic. It was probably the longest week of my life.
Do you have to go to school to go there, or is any heaps of people there? Nah.
No, anyone can just show up, but for the most part, like it's just school kids. Yeah.
Mate, that's crazy. Sounds good stuff. Okay, last question. Best piece of advice you have for a Waterlad listener?
Ooh, I guess from my unique standing and how weird my life's kind of panned out, if there is something you want to do, just go out and try to do it, and if it works out, it works out. If not, maybe have a good time out of it. But yeah. I mean that is kind of how my life worked out weirdly, and so I'm pretty grateful to be in the position I'm in, and I'd advise everyone to go after what they want and hope for the best.
Give it a crack. Love that. And mate, you're right. You're spot on. Like your career or your journey has been so interesting and so unique, and it's been such a fascinating insight for me. Someone I've wanted to have a yarn to for a long time, just to hear about how you've come about this gig over there. And mate, super interesting stuff. Really fascinating for me to hear the insight into what it's like over there as a American football player and college football. So really appreciate you coming on the podcast, and mate, I'm really looking forward to following your career from here and seeing how you go.
No, thank you so much for having me.
Mate, you're a lad.
No, thank you.